That tool we lost, the metadata program, was a valuable tool that we no longer have at our disposal.
Senator Cruz?
Well, I would note that Marco knows what he's saying isn't true. Mark Levin wrote a column last week that says that the attack ads his super PAC is running that are saying the same thing, that they are knowingly false, and they are in fact Alinsky-like attacks.
I promise you, the next time there is an attack on this country, the first thing people are going to want to know is, why didn't we know about it and why didn't we stop it? And the answer better not be because we didn't have access to records or information that would have allowed us to identify these killers before they attacked. As far as Ted's record, I'm always puzzled by his attack on this issue. Ted, you support legalizing people who are in this country illegally. Ted Cruz supported a 500% increase in the number of H-1B visas, the guest workers that are allowed into this country, and Ted supports doubling the number of green cards.
I understand that Marco wants to raise confusion. It is not accurate what he just said, that I supported legalization. Indeed, I led the fight against his legalization and amnesty bill. And there was one commentator that put it this way, that for Marco to suggest our record's the same, it is like suggesting the fireman and the arsonist have the same record because they're both at the scene of the fire. He was fighting to grant amnesty and not to secure the border. I was fighting to secure the border.
All right, those were some of the most heated moments from tonight's debate. Joining us now with reaction, Fox News legal analyst Peter Johnson Jr., from the National Review, Rich Lowry, and columnist for the Washington Times, Monica Crowley, all Fox News contributors. All right, I watched the debate, particularly tonight, between Cruz and Rubio. And I thought that represented something really good, Monica, for the Republican Party. And that is that there really is a full exchange of ideas and a viable alternative to what Obama and Hillary Clinton are offering.
Totally agree, Sean. In fact, I watched that exchange, and there were multiple exchanges over a whole variety of issues between Cruz and Rubio. I think it's very healthy for the party. I think it's very healthy for the country to see these debates because we're talking about really core issues. They debated about national security. They debated about immigration. They debated about NSA surveillance.
What do you think came out on top of these?
It's interesting because those two have essentially been neutralizing each other. They've both been climbing in the polls, but basically at the same rate. They're very similar in a lot of ways. They're Latinos, they're conservatives.
In Iowa, he's pulled ahead nationally.
Correct, which is why Marco Rubio thought he saw an opening. And look, Rubio landed a lot of punches, but so did Ted Cruz. So I think essentially it was a draw between those two.
What do you think? Peter Johnson Jr., I mean, here are the two people that have now emerged in the top tier, both behind Donald Trump.
Yes.
And they seem to go at it the most, and it was Jeb Bush and Trump, which kind of surprised me a little.
I think you put your finger on it with Cruz and Rubio. They were vibrant, and they really represent the youth and the excitement and the intellectuality of the Republican Party. Ted Cruz is considered one of the great debaters in the world, but I've got to tell you, I was more impressed with Marco Rubio tonight than I have been at any time during this campaign. He was authoritative, he was deliberate, he was likable, he was facile and well-spoken, and had a tremendous amount of facts at his fingertip, and on some occasions seemed to point to some real, not falsehoods, but some misstatements by Ted Cruz. I think overall, though, we'll probably see in the polls that Donald Trump won this debate as well. But these guys stepped up really big time.
Rich Lowry, who was correct on substance in this debate? Because there was so much back and forth.
Yeah.
Who did you think came out on top?
We're really going to have the fact checkers really dig in.
Yeah, who checks the fact checkers? I don't believe those people.
And the fact checkers checking the fact checkers.
Exactly.
And all the rest of it. I thought Rubio won on points, but just barely. And Cruz just seemed a little too personal to me. He basically several times called Marco Rubio a liar. And
I didn't sense that. I sense he was saying that's not accurate about my record.
No,
that's not what this vote was. I didn't take it that way.
Being deliberately misleading. But one thing I thought was interesting: Rubio's not the front runner. Rubio's not even second. Rubio's basically in third, but took the most fire in this debate because of the repeated exchanges with Cruz, and plus because Rand Paul obviously can't stand the guy and what he stands for. Plus Rubio, he and his support and the party's kind of spread out around the field, so everyone has an incentive to take him on in a way that Trump. Some people don't need to attack Trump. Foremost among them Ted Cruz, and when the moderators tried to stoke that clash, they basically hugged together on stage, where Trump said, "Oh, I take it all back about how he's a maniac," and Cruz avoided answering the question about Trump's judgment.
All right, let's go to how this plays out. Monica, how is this going to play out in the weeks leading into Christmas and, of course, New Year's?
Well, I actually think Donald Trump had his strongest debate performance yet. I mean, the debate format is not his forte. It's not his strength, but he came more well prepared tonight, I think. I think he had one of the biggest moments of the night, which I think even so far tonight has been overlooked. At the very end, Donald Trump said, "I'm absolutely committed to the Republican Party and I will not run as an independent." Now, if he holds that to be true, that was a huge moment that's going to be a huge headline
The problem
tomorrow.
is there's sore loser laws in 44 states, so he really couldn't run as an independent once he's on the ballot as a Republican.
The other thing, I think, we were just talking about Cruz versus Rubio, which was an interesting exchange, but the Bush versus Trump exchange and that kind of personal attacks against each other, I think that actually helps both Trump and Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
We saw it tonight again. They created something of an alliance early on, and I think that alliance is still intact.
Peter Johnson, Jr., who do you think, how does this play out in the next 2 weeks?
I think Trump and Cruz continue in their positions. There was a maturation in terms of Trump's performance tonight. I also have to point out that Bush showed a strength that he hadn't shown in the past, and going head to head.
Does that help him? Does he come up?
It does help him. I don't know when he comes up, but I think it helps sustain him going forward. This helped a lot of the candidates tonight. Cruz, Rubio, Trump certainly, and a little bit
Christie.
Bush.
And Christie. Christie was extremely forceful.
Yep.
He didn't really tangle with anyone. He just got his message across on every single answer. And Sean, importantly, brought it back at every single opportunity.
You know what I'm hearing from all three of you?
Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton.
I'm hearing status quo. Things haven't changed.
Status quo ante, as they say in Latin.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
And
Sean.
coming up, Ohio Governor John Kasich is here next with reaction to tonight's debate. And later, Senator Rand Paul and former Governor Mike Huckabee will also join us from the Spin Room in Vegas as we continue.